Hello there, beautiful mind. Welcome to Dream Science. Maybe you've arrived here with thoughts still swirling, or simply seeking a quiet drift into sleep. Whatever brought you, you're in the right place. There's no rush here, just soft wonder. Together, we'll explore scientific mysteries, philosophical riddles, and the quiet questions that echo beneath the noise. Tonight's episode is called Perception Errors That Control Your Choices. Have you ever wondered if the world you see is real or just a clever invention of your brain? That two people can see the same event and remember entirely different truths? Or that your expectations might shape not just what you feel, but what you actually see as you settle in, whether lying in bed or watching the night flicker past? Let your assumptions gently unravel. If this journey brings you peace, consider liking or subscribing to help other quiet minds find their way. Now, close your eyes or let your gaze soften. Let's drift into the space between what you perceive and the choices that follow. You wake, and the world rushes in. The soft, familiar light filtering through your curtains. The gentle hum of the refrigerator. The scent of morning coffee already brewing. You reach for your phone, scroll through headlines, and prepare for your day. Everything feels solid, real, undeniably there. You trust your eyes implicitly, don't you? You believe that the colors you see, the shapes you discern, the distances you judge, are faithful reproductions of an external, objective world. We all do. We navigate bustling streets, recognize the faces of loved ones, drive cars at speed, all based on the absolute conviction that what our eyes report is the unvarnished truth, a high-definition, live feed of reality. You walk into a room, and it simply is. It presents itself to you, clear and unambiguous. A stage set for your every action. But what if the very act of seeing isn't merely receiving light, but a profound, elaborate act of creation? What if the vibrant, detailed world you perceive every waking moment isn't a direct transmission, but a meticulously crafted illusion? Built from fragments and inferences, a brilliant deception orchestrated by the unseen architect within your own skull. This isn't a philosophical musing. It's the unsettling truth revealed by neuroscience. Your brain, that squishy, 3-pound universe, doesn't passively observe reality. It invents it, millisecond by millisecond, painting over the gaps, predicting the next brushstroke, and showing you a remarkably convincing version of events that often bears little resemblance to the raw, chaotic data streaming in. Think of your eyes not as perfect, high-resolution cameras, but as leaky, low-bandwidth sensors. They have blind spots, sacral holes where the optic nerve leaves the retina, areas where no light-sensitive cells exist. They only perceive sharp detail in a tiny central region, the fovea about the size of your thumbnail at arm's length. The rest of your vision is a blurry loris mess, like an old VHS tape played on a modern 4K screen. So, how do you see a seamless, sharp world? Because your brain is a master editor, a predictive novelist, a brilliant forensic artist. It takes those patchy, incomplete signals, combines them with vast libraries of past experiences, expectations, and probabilities, and fills in the blanks. It airbrushes away the blind spots, sharpens the peripheral blur, and even anticipates where things should be going next, often before your eyes have even registered them. Imagine you're watching a movie. Your brain isn't just watching, it's simultaneously the director, the editor, and the special effects team, all working at breakneck speed. As your eyes dart across a scene in rapid, jerky movements called saccades, your brain momentarily shuts off your vision. you're effectively blind for tiny fractions of a second, dozens of times a minute. Yet, you perceive a smooth, continuous flow. Why? Because your brain smooths it out, stitching together disconnected snapshots into a fluid narrative. Just like a film editor splices together individual frames to create motion. It's a miracle of efficiency, preventing constant disorientation, but it means the movie you're watching is always a post-production masterpiece, not a raw feed. We are living in a continuously rendered virtual reality, generated internally and then projected outward. What then are the profound implications of this incessant, invisible act of creation? If your reality is a unique, personalized construct, how much of what you perceive as objective truth is merely a sophisticated projection? Are you truly seeing the world, or your world? And if everyone else is also inhabiting their own meticulously curated, internally generated reality, what does that mean for shared experiences, for connection, for the very fabric of human understanding? When you look at the same sunset, are you truly seeing the same spectrum of light, the same hues, or are your brains subtly, uniquely coloring the sky? This fundamental discrepancy might explain why we argue, why we misunderstand, why the simplest observation can lead to profound disagreement. Your brain's imperative is not to show you reality as it is, but to show you a reality that is useful for your survival. A reality that makes sense based on your unique history and predictive models. This isn't a flaw, however. It's a breathtaking, evolutionary achievement. This predictive, reconstructive power allows you to act quickly, to make sense of ambiguous input, to navigate a complex, ever-changing environment without being overwhelmed by a deluge of raw, uninterpreted data. Imagine if you had to consciously process every photon, every sound wave, every pressure point on your skin. You would be paralyzed by information overload. Your brain's beautiful deception liberates you, allowing you to move through the world with grace and apparent certainty. It's a testament to your mind's incredible power, a power that not only interprets, but actively shapes the very fabric of your perceived existence. So, the next time you gaze at a vibrant flower, feel the warmth of the sun, or recognize a familiar face, pause, ask yourself, how much of what I believe to be solid truth is merely a sophisticated projection, a convenient fiction crafted by the master architect behind your eyes? This knowledge is not meant to breed distrust in your senses, but to cultivate a profound awareness of the active role your mind plays in every single moment of your waking life. It invites you to step back, to question, to embrace the magnificent, unsettling truth that the reality you experience isn't out there, waiting to be passively absorbed, but is, in a very real sense, being continuously, miraculously, brought into being by you. You've just begun to grasp the dizzying truth. The world isn't merely presented to you. It's meticulously constructed by your own mind. That seamless, vibrant reality you inhabit is a masterwork of neural prediction, a brilliant internal projection that fills in the gaps and smooths over the rough edges of raw sensory input. But if your brain is such a prolific architect of reality, what influences its design? What are the blueprints it consults, the biases it holds, as it paints your world? This question leads us down another unsettling corridor, revealing that the reality you perceive isn't just constructed, it's curated. You probably believe you're an objective observer. When presented with facts, you weigh them. When exposed to differing viewpoints, you consider them. Seeing is believing, we often say, implying that our eyes are unbiased witnesses and our minds impartial judges. You might think that if evidence contradicts your belief, you'll simply update your understanding, like a computer patching an outdated program. You strive for fairness, for open-mindedness, for a rational assessment of the world. But this assumption, like the seamlessness of your vision, is another exquisite illusion your brain tirelessly maintains. The disquieting truth is this: your brain doesn't just construct reality, it actively filters it, often bending what you perceive to fit what you already believe. It's a phenomenon known as confirmation bias, a powerful, invisible force that turns your mind into an echo chamber, amplifying what you expect to hear and subtly muffling everything else. This isn't a conscious act of stubbornness or deliberate ignorance. It's a fundamental, deeply ingrained mechanism of perception, a survival strategy that, in our complex modern world, can become a formidable prison. Your brain, having worked so hard to build its internal model of reality, then works just as hard to defend it. Think of your brain not just as a master editor, but as a news editor with a very specific agenda. When new information streams in, it doesn't simply publish everything. Instead, it highlights headlines that confirm its existing worldview, relegating contradictory stories to the back pages, or even discarding them entirely. It's like having a search engine in your head that, when you type in a question, prioritizes results that support your current hypothesis, even if other, equally valid results suggest otherwise. This isn't malicious. It's efficient. From an evolutionary perspective, a brain that rapidly confirms its predictions, for example, that rustling in the bushes means danger, just like it did last time, is a brain that keeps you alive. It saves precious cognitive energy by not constantly re-evaluating every piece of data from scratch. Consider, conversely, if you expect warmth, you'll perceive smiles, open gestures, and friendly gazes, even if they are only a fraction of the overall visual information. Your perception acts like a spotlight, illuminating what it expects to find, leaving everything else in shadow, or worse, reinterpreting it to fit the illuminated narrative. This is why two people can witness the exact same event and walk away with wildly different accounts. They weren't seeing the same event. They were seeing their own interpretations of it, filtered through the powerful lens of their beliefs and expectations. What are the profound implications of living within such a curated reality? If your perceptions are constantly being shaped, biased, and filtered by your own ingrained beliefs, how truly free are your choices? Are you making decisions based on an objective assessment of reality, or merely on a highly personalized, often self-validating version of it? How many opportunities have you missed because your mind wasn't tuned in to perceive them, because they didn't fit your internal narrative? Consider our increasingly polarized societies. Is disagreement purely a clash of ideas, or is it, at a much deeper level, a clash of fundamentally different perceived realities, where each side genuinely sees the world in a way the other cannot access? If we are all inhabiting these unique, self-reinforcing echo chambers of perception, how can true understanding or empathy ever be achieved? Yet, this unsettling truth offers a powerful path to liberation. Recognizing this bias isn't about despair, it's about empowerment. It allows you to become a more discerning observer of your own mind. Understanding that your brain is hardwired to confirm your beliefs gives you the first crucial tool to transcend that wiring. You can consciously, intentionally, seek out disconfirming evidence. You can practice radical empathy, genuinely trying to perceive the world from another's constructed reality, knowing that their truth is as real to them as yours is to you. This awareness allows you to cultivate genuine open-mindedness, not as a passive state, but as an active, courageous pursuit, a deliberate willingness to challenge your own internal narratives, to step outside the comfortable confines of what you already know. So, as you move through your day, interacting with others, consuming information, making decisions, ask yourself, how much of what I am perceiving right now is the world as it is, and how much is the world as my brain, influenced by its history and biases, expects it to be? How will you intentionally step outside the echo chamber of your own mind today and truly see what you've been conditioned to ignore? The journey to seeing more clearly begins with acknowledging that you rarely see clearly at all. You felt the unsettling tremor, haven't you? The realization that your perception isn't a direct window to reality, but a continuously painted masterpiece by your brain, and further, that this masterpiece is tinted by the powerful dyes of your own expectations and beliefs. We've unmasked the brain as a diligent architect, then as a biased editor. But what if this editing process isn't just about individual facts, but about entire blueprints? What if the very fabric of your understanding, your responses, even your personality, is guided by deeply ingrained, often invisible, scripts? You walk through life believing you react to each situation freshly, that you approach new people and challenges with an open mind, adapting consciously to the unique circumstances before you. You might think your responses are flexible, a direct result of the external stimuli. Encounter a new person, and you believe you assess them for who they are. Face a new problem, and you feel you approach it with novel solutions. This intuitive sense of spontaneous adaptation, however, overlooks another layer of profound pre-programmed influence. The disquieting truth is that your brain doesn't just fill in visual gaps or confirm isolated beliefs. It operates through ingrained, often unconscious, mental models or schemas. These are not merely opinions. They are deeply wired neural pathways, cognitive frameworks, like pre-written scripts or comprehensive maps that dictate how you interpret entire situations, relationships, and even your own identity. You are not just reacting to the world directly, but to the world as filtered, understood, and expected through these existing, often ancient, maps. Your brain has spent a lifetime drawing these maps, and it defaults to them, even when the territory has shifted. Think of your brain as an elaborate GPS system, but one loaded with maps drawn years ago, perhaps even in childhood. When you encounter a new street, the GPS doesn't recalculate from scratch. It tries to fit the new road into its existing, familiar routes. If the new road doesn't quite fit, it might insist you're in the wrong place, or it might creatively interpret the new data to align with its outdated map. These mental maps are formed through repeated experiences, powerful emotions, and significant relationships. They dictate what you pay attention to, how you interpret ambiguous information, and what responses you deem appropriate. For example, if you developed a schema of abandonment early in life, your brain's map of relationships might constantly highlight signs of disinterest or impending departure. Even in perfectly stable connections, you would literally perceive these signs more readily, while your partner's consistent affection might be subtly downplayed or reinterpreted as merely temporary. Consider another analogy: your brain as a theater director. This director has a specific play, a schema in mind, say, the betrayal. When new actors, people, arrive on stage, your life, the director doesn't assess their individual talents objectively. Instead, they try to cast each one into a role that fits that play. A kind gesture might be interpreted as manipulative, an innocent oversight as a deliberate slight. Your brain, the director, is so committed to its pre-written script that it will subtly nudge the actors and interpret their lines to ensure the play unfolds as expected, strengthening the very schema it's operating from. This process is astonishingly efficient, allowing you to rapidly process complex social cues and react in familiar ways. But it also locks you into repetitive patterns of perception and behavior. What are the profound implications of these deeply grooved maps that silently chart the course of your perceptions and choices? If so much of your interpretation of reality, and thus your response to it, is dictated by these unconscious mental models, how much genuine agency do you truly possess? Are you truly seeing the person in front of you, or the type of person your brain's map says they are? The unreliable friend, the critical boss, the needy partner. How many times have you found yourself stuck in a frustrating loop, repeating the same mistakes or experiencing the same interpersonal conflicts, because your brain is diligently following an old, inaccurate map of the world? Is your personality just a collection of these deeply grooved pathways, these pre-programmed scripts that dictate your default interpretations and reactions? This raises unsettling questions about free will. If your perception of reality is a filtered, biased, and scripted performance, how truly free are the choices you make within that constructed reality? Yet, this isn't a sentence to a predetermined existence. This knowledge, though unsettling, is profoundly liberating. These maps, powerful as they are not immutable. Understanding their existence and recognizing their pervasive influence is the first crucial step toward revising them. Neuroplasticity, the brain's astonishing capacity to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections, is your greatest ally. You have the capacity for metacognition, thinking about your thinking. You can become a cartographer of your own mind, learning to identify when an old, unhelpful map is guiding your perception, and then consciously, intentionally, beginning to draw new ones. This awareness offers you the potential to consciously update your You've felt the ground shift beneath your feet, haven't you? First, the realization that your perceived reality is a bespoke creation of your brain. Then the unsettling discovery that this creation is deeply colored by your ingrained beliefs and internal maps. These maps, we learned, are not just filters but pre-programmed scripts, dictating how you interpret the world around you. But what about the world behind you? What about your past, the seemingly solid foundation of who you are, the bedrock of your experience and identity? You carry your past with you like a well-organized archive, don't you? A collection of memories, crisp and clear, waiting to be retrieved. You believe that when you recall an evented childhood birthday, a significant conversation, a moment of triumph or despair, you are accessing a perfect recording, playing back a video file of what actually happened. I remember it clearly, you say, with an unwavering conviction that your recollections are faithful, unbiased records of a fixed reality. We use our memories to learn from mistakes, to understand our own character, to settle disputes, resting firmly on the assurance that our personal histories are objective truths. But here is another deeply disquieting truth that pulls the rug from under that certainty. Your memory is not a video recorder. It is not a static archive, perfectly preserving moments in amber. Instead, it is a dynamic, reconstructive process, a living narrative that is subtly, continuously, and often unconsciously rewritten every time you access it. Every recall is a recreation, a retelling where details can be edited, added, or deleted, all to fit your current beliefs, emotional state, and those very mental skimmers we discussed, the unsettling implication. The past you remember might not be the past that was. Imagine your memory not as a fixed document in a vault, but as a Wikipedia page that anyone, including your own unconscious biases, current mood, and expectations can edit before you view it. When you remember an event, your brain doesn't pull a perfect file. It reactivates a network of neurons, and in that reactivation, the memory becomes temporarily malleable, open to influence. It's like piecing together a broken mosaic. Your brain fills in the missing tiles with what looks right based on the surrounding pieces, often creating details that were never there, or omitting ones that don't fit the emerging narrative. This is why flashbulb memories, intensely vivid recollections of traumatic or significant events, can be so powerfully incorrect, embroidered with details that feel undeniably real but are later proven false. Your brain prioritizes narrative coherence over factual fidelity. Consider the profound implications. If your past isn't fixed, if it's a perpetually shifting story your brain tells itself, then who are you? Is your identity merely a convenient narrative, constantly updated to maintain a sense of coherence in your life? When you learn from your mistakes, but your memory of those mistakes is subtly skewed to protect your ego or reinforce a current belief, are you truly learning from an accurate past, or from a fabricated lesson? This reconstructive nature of memory is a significant reason why eyewitness testimony in legal cases is notoriously unreliable, leading to countless miscarriages of justice. It's also why family arguments often devolve into exasperated cries of "that's not how it happened," because for each person, their reconstructed memory is the truth, regardless of the objective facts. Two people can experience the exact same event, and their brains, filtered through different skimmers and emotions, will reconstruct fundamentally divergent memories, each equally real to the individual. Yet, as with the other unsettling truths, this isn't a flaw in your design. It's a profound adaptation. Memory's flexibility is what allows us to integrate new learning, to adapt our understanding of the world, and even to emotionally regulate by reframing past traumas. Imagine being burdened by every single, raw, unfiltered detail of your entire life, unable to prioritize, categorize, or contextualize. Your memory's capacity to streamline and shape the past isn't about deception for its own sake, but about constructing a coherent, navigable narrative that allows you to function, to grow, and to survive. It's about building a consistent story of me that allows for future action. This awareness, however, grants you immense power. Understanding that your memory is a creative act fosters humility about your own recollections and cultivates empathy for others whose facts might diverge from yours. It encourages you to critically evaluate not just external information, but your own internal narratives. You are not simply a product of a fixed past. You are continuously shaping your own history, which means you have the power to influence how your past informs your present and future. You can consciously challenge old, limiting narratives you've told yourself, not by denying reality, but by recognizing the story-making nature of memory and intentionally focusing on the lessons learned, or the alternative interpretations possible, to serve a better future. So, the next time a vivid memory resurfaces, or you find yourself absolutely certain about how an event unfolded, pause, ask yourself, what narratives of your past are you clinging to? And how might re-examining their origins, not just their objective truth, but the subtle ways your brain has constructed them, open pathways to a different understanding of yourself and a different, more liberated future. The journey continues, now deeper into the very foundations of yourself, revealing that even your personal history is a fluid landscape shaped by the tireless, imaginative work of your own mind. You've ventured deeper into the architecture of your own perception, unearthing unsettling truths. You've discovered that your brain actively constructs your reality, rather than merely reflecting it. You've grappled with how your ingrained beliefs and skimmers act as powerful lenses, filtering and even distorting what you see. And most recently, you confronted the fluid, reconstructive nature of your memories, revealing that even your personal history is a narrative shaped by your mind. With all these layers of interpretation, filtering, and reconstruction, a profound question naturally arises. If your perception, your understanding, and even your past are so heavily influenced by internal processes, how much genuine control do you truly have over your choices? You pride yourself on your autonomy, don't you? On your capacity for rational thought, for making conscious decisions. You believe that when presented with options, you weigh them thoughtfully, exercise your free will, and then choose the path you consciously intend. When you decide what to eat for dinner, what career path to pursue, or how to react to an unexpected challenge, you feel a distinct sense of agency, a conviction that you are in the driver's seat, steering your life with purpose and deliberation. This deep-seated belief in personal control, in your conscious mind as the ultimate decision-maker, is perhaps one of the most comforting and foundational assumptions we hold about ourselves. But here is a truth that can feel profoundly disarming. Much of what you perceive as conscious choice is, in fact, an after-the-fact rationalization for decisions already made by the silent, swift processes of your unconscious mind. Your brain often initiates actions, forms judgments, and even sets intentions long before your conscious awareness catches up. This isn't just about simple reflexes. It extends to complex behaviors and preferences. Your conscious mind, the you identify with, often acts more like a diligent public relations manager, spinning a coherent story around actions it didn't actually initiate. Think of your brain as a vast, complex corporation. Your conscious mind is the CEO, sitting in a plush office, making pronouncements and taking credit for successes. But beneath that office, in the bustling depths of the unconscious, are thousands of highly efficient departments, neural networks, algorithms, and deeply grooved pathways, those skimmers and memories we just discussed, working at lightning speed. These departments process information, run calculations, and initiate actions entirely outside the CEO's direct awareness. By the time a decision or action reaches the CEO's desk for approval or announcement, the real work has already been done. The CEO simply stamps it. Rational. How much of your personality is simply the aggregate of these pre-conscious leanings, and how much is genuinely chosen? The idea that your conscious will is merely a passenger, not the pilot, can feel profoundly disempowering, undermining our sense of individual agency and the very foundation of self-determination. Yet, this unsettling truth is also a powerful gateway to a different kind of control, a more profound self-awareness. Recognizing that your conscious mind is often playing catch-up isn't an invitation to fatalism. It's a call to look deeper. It means that true agency might not lie in simply making a choice, but in consciously shaping the underlying unconscious processes that lead to choices. It's about becoming aware of the biases, the maps, the historical narratives that run on autopilot, and then intentionally working to revise them. Through practices like mindfulness, self-reflection, and deliberate habit formation, you can begin to influence the very departments of your unconscious mind, setting the stage for more aligned and intentional conscious decisions. This new understanding offers a subtle but profound form of liberation. You might not initiate every single thought or action, but you can cultivate the garden of your mind, choosing which seeds to plant and which pathways to reinforce. You can train your unconscious, becoming the architect of your predispositions, even if you aren't the direct orchestrator of every instantaneous impulse. So, as you go about your day, making big decisions and small ones, pause and reflect. How many of your choices truly originate from your conscious deliberation? And how many are the elegant, lightning-fast solutions whispered from the silent depths of your unconscious mind? And armed with this awareness, how will you begin to cultivate the very soil of your being, laying the groundwork for a future where your unconscious and conscious intentions move in greater harmony, guiding you toward a truer, more authentic form of control? You've journeyed through the labyrinth of your own mind, uncovering layer after layer of unsettling truth. You've acknowledged that your brain constructs reality, that your deep-seated beliefs and mental maps filter what you see, and that your memories are fluid narratives, not fixed archives. Most recently, you faced the profound challenge to your autonomy, that much of your conscious choice is a post hoc rationalization for unconscious decisions. A disquieting question thus lingers. If your internal world is so deeply influenced by these silent preconscious processes, then how much of that internal world is truly yours to begin with? You cherish your individuality, don't you? Your unique preferences, your deeply held opinions, your distinct personality. You believe that while you might be influenced by your upbringing or your environment, your core self, your inner landscape of desires, values, and thoughts is fundamentally your own, forged through personal experience and independent reflection. When you choose your clothing style, express a political viewpoint, or feel a sudden surge of emotion, you experience it as emanating from your authentic self, a testament to your distinct journey through life. We all hold dear this sense of self-authorship, this conviction that our inner world is our sanctuary, uniquely ours. But here is a truth that can feel even more deeply unsettling. Dissolving the very boundaries of your perceived individuality, those internal processes, the unconscious biases, the deep-seated schemas, the very architecture of your perception are not formed in a vacuum. They are profoundly, often imperceptibly, shaped by the collective, by the cultures, social groups, languages, and historical narratives you are immersed in. Your individual reality, the very landscape of your inner thoughts and feelings, is largely a collective construction, a shared dream woven by society. Your free choices are often guided by societal norms, implicit expectations, and the shared truths of your group, making you a product of your environment in ways you rarely suspect. Think of your brain not as an independent radio receiver, but as one that's been factory-tuned to a specific cultural frequency. It picks up certain signals, amplifies certain narratives, and filters out others, all based on the dominant station it was born into. The language you speak, for instance, isn't just a tool for communication. It's a powerful architect of your reality. Different languages literally constrain or expand your ability to perceive and conceptualize the world, highlighting certain distinctions while blurring others. If your language has many words for snow, you might perceive more nuances in its texture and quality than someone whose language has only one. Your cultural norms define what is considered beautiful, right, wrong, desirable, or even perceivable. The very concept of personal space, politeness, or success is meticulously taught and reinforced by the collective, implicitly shaping your reactions and judgments long before consciousness weighs in. Consider the pervasive influence of implicit bias, those unconscious attitudes and stereotypes that instantly affect your judgments of others. These aren't born in a vacuum. They are absorbed from the cultural air you breathe, from media, from societal narratives, from the unexamined assumptions passed down through generations. You might consciously believe in equality, yet your brain, operating on its programs, might still make rapid, biased judgments influenced by the collective's ingrained stereotypes, or reflect on the chilling insights from the Asch conformity experiments, where individuals, when faced with a group giving an obviously wrong answer, would often override their own clear perception and conform, simply to align with the collective. Your desire to belong, to be seen as normal, is a powerful, unconscious driver that can override even the direct evidence of your senses. You are, in essence, a character in a play, and while you might improvise lines, the overall plot, setting, and even your character's fundamental motivations are often written by the cultural playwrights of your society. You are a fish, and the pervasive water of culture is so fundamental to your existence, you rarely even perceive it. What are the profound implications of this pervasive social construction of your reality? If your very perception, your core beliefs, and your fundamental desires are so deeply shared and shaped by the collective, how truly unique are you? What does self even mean if so much of it is a reflection of a societal mirror? This understanding challenges the very roots of individuality and self-determination. It also casts a stark light on social conflicts. They are often not just clashes of interests or opinions, but clashes of deeply divergent, socially constructed realities, where each group genuinely perceives the world in a way that is utterly alien to the other. How difficult is it then to break free from harmful collective narratives, from stereotypes, prejudices, or limiting societal expectations? They are ingrained at the level of unconscious perception, driving your actions before you even know it. Yet, this awareness is not a pronouncement of the death of individuality. Rather, it's an invitation to a deeper, more interconnected understanding of self. Recognizing the profound influence of the collective allows for radical empathy. It helps you understand why others hold beliefs that seem utterly illogical to you. They are operating within a different water, seeing reality through a different culturally tuned lens. This knowledge empowers you to consciously deconstruct and reconstruct. You can choose to question dominant narratives, to actively seek out diverse perspectives that challenge the boundaries of your own cultural programming. You can become a critical consumer of cultural inputs, a conscious cartographer of the societal maps that once invisibly guided you. This liberation allows you to consciously build bridges across perceived realities, to foster genuine dialogue, and to contribute to shaping new, more inclusive collective maps. You can influence the water you swim in, not just be carried by its currents. So, as you engage with the world, consume media, and interact with others, pause and reflect. What subtle, powerful societal scripts are running in the background of your perception right now? You've peered into the profound depths of your own making, unearthing unsettling layers of truth. You've accepted that your reality is a bespoke construct of your brain, shaped by the powerful lenses of your beliefs and mental maps, and that even your most cherished memories are fluid narratives, not fixed archives. Most recently, you grappled with the idea that your choices often spring from unconscious depths, and that your very sense of individuality is deeply sculpted by the invisible currents of collective consciousness. But if your perception of space, self, and agency is so malleable, What about the most fundamental framework of your existence, time itself? You experience time as an unwavering, objective force, don't you? A relentless arrow flying uniformly from past to present to future. Clocks tick, calendars turn, deadlines loom, and the steady march of moments feels undeniably real, a universal constant that governs every aspect of existence. You live in a continuous now, a razor-thin point separating what has been from what is yet to come. We plan our lives around this linear progression, scheduling, remembering, anticipating, all under the implicit assumption that time is a consistent, external reality, perceived identically by everyone. But here is another truth, perhaps the most disorienting yet, which bends the very fabric of your perceived existence. Your experience of time is profoundly subjective, elastic, and often a brilliant illusion constructed by your brain. The present moment you inhabit isn't an infinitesimal point, but a fluid, manufactured duration, and the linearity you perceive is heavily influenced by your attention, your emotions, and your brain's tireless predictive models. What feels like an unbroken, continuous flow is often a series of discrete, overlapping nows stitched together, a perceptual magic trick performed by your own grey matter. Think of time not as a rigid, universal ruler, but as a rubber band. When you are bored, sitting in a waiting room, minutes can stretch into what feels like an eternity. The rubber band of time extends, seemingly endless, yet, when you are fully engrossed in a passionate conversation, lost in a thrilling book, or immersed in a challenging task, hours can vanish in what feels like mere moments. The rubber band snaps back, compressing time to an astonishing degree. This isn't just a metaphor. It's a neurological reality. Your brain literally modulates its internal clock based on the novelty, emotional intensity, and attention you give to an experience. Scientifically, your now is far from a singular point. Neuroscientists speak of the specious present, a window of roughly 3 seconds where your brain integrates sensory information, weaving together the immediate past, present, and anticipated future into a coherent experience. It's like a movie projectionist constantly adjusting the frame rate. Your brain is not just showing you frames, it's actively controlling the speed at which those frames are perceived. Stitching disparate sensory inputs, the sight of a car, the sound of its engine, the feeling of its vibration into a single, unified moment of a car passing by. Crucially, your perception of now is often a few hundred milliseconds behind actual sensory input. Your brain works tirelessly to smooth out tiny delays and discrepancies between what your eyes see, your ears hear, and your skin feels, all to present you with a seamless, albeit slightly delayed, temporal experience. It's an act of magnificent, necessary deception to create the illusion of a continuous present. What are the profound implications of this elasticity of time? If time can bend and stretch based on your internal state, what else in your reality is less rigid than you assume? If the now is a constructed duration, are you truly living in the present? Or are you constantly chasing an elusive, ever-receding target manufactured by your brain's relentless predictions? This challenges the very foundation upon which we organize our lives, our ability to plan for a future. To reflect on a past becomes even more complex if the very framework of time is so subjective. It also helps explain the fluidity of memory from part 4. If the when of an event is as malleable as the what, then memory's reconstructive nature makes perfect sense. And for shared reality from part 6, if individual time perception is so subjective, do we ever truly experience a moment together in the exact same temporal space? Or are we always slightly out of sync, living in our own unique, elastic presence? Yet, this isn't a call to nihilism. It's a profound invitation to mindful living and a reclamation of agency. Understanding time's elasticity isn't about losing objective truth, but about gaining control over your experience of time. By consciously managing your attention and emotion, you can learn to slow down perceived duration during cherished moments, stretching them out, savoring their richness. You can deliberately engage with experiences to make time feel fuller, more meaningful, rather than simply letting it rush by unnoticed. This knowledge offers a profound liberation from the tyranny of clocks and the relentless pace of modern life, encouraging you to prioritize the quality of an experience over its perceived duration. You are not merely a passive rider on the arrow of time. You possess the subtle, yet powerful, ability to influence its very tempo within your own consciousness. So, as you check your watch, or lament how quickly or slowly a day is passing, pause and truly observe. How is your brain currently constructing this moment and this duration? How will you intentionally engage with the present, recognizing its beautiful elasticity, and thus reclaim a sense of agency over your experience of time, which shapes all your choices? The journey continues, pushing the boundaries of what you thought was undeniably real, and revealing the profound power inherent in the very act of conscious perception. You've journeyed through the mind's uncanny valleys, confronting unsettling truths about your constructed reality, the biased lenses of your beliefs, the fluid nature of memory, the illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. Most recently, you grappled with the elasticity of time, realizing that even the now is a subjective, pliable construct of your brain, with so much of your perceived reality dissolving into a cascade of internal processes and external influences. A final, chilling question inevitably surfaces. What about you? What about the conscious I that experiences all of this? The seemingly unified stream of awareness that binds your perceptions, thoughts, and feelings into a coherent self. You feel yourself to be a singular, continuous entity, don't you? There's a persistent I that wakes up each morning, navigates the day, recalls yesterday's events as your experiences, and looks forward to tomorrow as your future. Your consciousness feels like an unbroken stream, a steady flow of awareness, distinct and enduring. You recognize yourself in the mirror, your thoughts feel uniquely your own, and every decision, however subtly influenced, seems to emanate from a central, sovereign you. We rely on this feeling of a unified self as the bedrock of our existence, the anchor in a world of flux, the undeniable proof of our unique identity. But here is a truth that can feel the most disarming, eroding the very core of your perceived being. The continuous, unified stream of consciousness you experience might be another one of the brain's most magnificent, yet masterful, illusions. Yourself might not be a central command center, a fixed point of origin, but rather an emergent property of distributed brain activity, a grand performance orchestrated by countless neural actors. Consciousness itself may not be the primary driver of your actions, but a brilliant, highly sophisticated narrative your brain tells itself, a byproduct of its relentless work. Think of your brain not as a single executive making decisions, but as a vast, complex orchestra. Each section, perceptual areas, memory centers, emotional regulators, plays its part. Consciousness isn't the conductor, but the symphony itself. The emergent sound produced by the collective, synchronized play of all instruments. The you that experiences it is like the audience member who, captivated by the performance, believes the music emanates from a singular, central source, rather than from the intricate interplay of hundreds of musicians, each focused on their own score. Your feeling of a unified self, of a continuous I, is the brain's genius in creating a coherent, compelling story out of disparate, asynchronous neural activities. Consider the unsettling insights from split-brain patients, individuals, yet, when asked why they performed an action initiated by the disconnected hemisphere, the verbal left hemisphere will effortlessly confabulate a plausible reason, creating a consistent narrative even when it has no access to the true cause. This suggests that the brain's default mode is to create a unified story, a single you, even if the underlying reality is fragmented. Your brain is a master storyteller, and you are the story it tells itself. Scientifically, consciousness is increasingly viewed as a form of attention schema, your brain's model of its own attention, just as your brain creates a model of your body to navigate space. It creates a model of its internal spotlight of attention, and that model is what we experience as consciousness. This means you are not directly experiencing reality, nor even your brain's raw processing, but a sophisticated internal simulation of attention itself. Furthermore, your brain is a predictive machine constantly trying to minimize prediction errors, and consciousness might be a part of this error correction process, a way of integrating new information into its existing models. The present moment from Part 7, a several hundred millisecond buffer, is another testament to this. Your conscious experience is always slightly delayed, allowing the brain time to assemble a coherent narrative before presenting it to you. What are the profound implications of understanding your consciousness as this grand, intricate performance? If the I is not a fixed entity, but an emergent property, a constantly updated narrative, or even an illusion, what does it truly mean to be you? Is there an enduring soul, a persistent essence? Or are you merely a dynamic process, a complex system of interacting parts that generates the feeling of being a unified self? This perspective profoundly reshapes our understanding of free will, revisiting Part 5, suggesting that consciousness has even less direct control over actions, instead acting as a sophisticated commentator or rationalizer. If your subjective experience is a performance staged by your brain, does that diminish its significance? Do your joys and sorrows, your triumphs and regrets, lose their meaning if they are ultimately neural outputs? Yet, this isn't a loss of self. It's a monumental shift in understanding. The illusion is not that you don't exist, but that you exist in a way far more profound, distributed, and mysterious than previously conceived. Understanding consciousness as an emergent property allows for a more flexible, less rigid, and ultimately more liberating sense of self. It encourages you to let go of the burden of being a singular, constant entity, and instead to appreciate the incredible complexity and dynamism of your own being as a living, evolving system. Your focus shifts from clinging to a fixed I to appreciating the quality of the performance, your experiences, your actions, your interactions with the world. You are a continuous act of becoming, a process, not a fixed thing. So, as you engage with your thoughts, your emotions, and your sense of self today, pause and reflect. If your consciousness is a magnificent, intricate performance your brain stages for itself, how will you choose to engage with this show? Will you cling to the belief of a central, unchanging I, or will you become both its participant and its most curious, awestruck observer? The journey continues, now leading you to question the very stage upon which all your perceptions and choices are enacted. inviting you to embrace the breathtaking mystery of being. You've embarked on a remarkable journey through the inner cosmos, peeling back layers of perceived reality. You've grappled with the constructed nature of your waking world, the biasing force of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. Most recently, you confronted the elasticity of time itself and the possibility that your unified self is a magnificent, emergent performance of the brain, with so much that felt solid dissolving into a cascade of internal processes and external forces. A final, chilling question inevitably surfaces, one that challenges the very ground beneath your feet. What, then, is the nature of reality itself? You cling to the comforting belief that an objective, external reality exists, independent of your observation, don't you? That the universe is out there, a vast stage populated by solid objects, governed by fixed laws and discernible facts, regardless of whether a mind is present to perceive it. Gravity works the same for everyone. The sun rises and sets whether you watch it or not. A table is solid for all who touch it. We base our science, our understanding, our very sanity on this conviction that there is a real world that simply is, waiting to be discovered, unchanging beneath the ephemeral dance of individual perception. But here is a truth that dissolves this final bastion of certainty, blurring the most fundamental line in your existence. If your perceptions are so deeply constructed, filtered, and biased, if your memories are fluid, if your sense of self and time are internal performances, then the objective reality you cling to might be far less independent of your mind than you imagine. Quantum physics, at the very bedrock of existence, whispers a radical secret. The act of observation profoundly influences reality at its most fundamental level, suggesting that the universe itself is not a pre-existing stage, but something profoundly intertwined with, or even dependent on, consciousness for its very manifestation in the form we perceive. Think of reality not as a played musical score, but as an unplayed one. The potential for the music exists within the notes on the page, but the actual melody, the perceived sound, only emerges when an instrument, the observer, plays it. At the quantum level, the smallest constituents of matter, electrons, photons, have definite properties like position or momentum until they are measured. Before observation, they exist in a superposition of all possible states simultaneously, like a ghostly wave of probabilities. It is the very act of observation or measurement that collapses this wave function, forcing the particle to commit to a definite state. The universe, in its rawest form, seems to be a vast ocean of potential, only solidifying into the specific forms we perceive when consciousness interacts with it. This doesn't mean you individually create the moon or stars, a common misinterpretation that leads to solipsism. Rather, it implies that consciousness itself, perhaps a universal fundamental quality, is deeply fundamental to reality. Our individual brains, with their elaborate construction mechanisms as we explored in Part 1, their filters Part 2, their maps Part 3, their fluid memories Part 4, and their emergent consciousness Part 8, are not just passively receiving data from an objective world. Instead, they are active participants in the very act of bringing forth that reality from a realm of possibility. It's like the universe is a vast, interactive video game. The entire landscape exists in potential, but it only fully renders the intricate details in the areas you are currently looking at in the very moment you are observing it. The unobserved parts remain probabilities, a cosmic blur. What are the profound implications of recognizing the universe in your mind? If objective reality is, in some sense, influenced by observation, is there truly any independent reality that exists entirely apart from consciousness? This paradigm shifts our understanding of purpose. If reality solidifies through the act of observation, does this imply a deeper meaning or role for our existence within the cosmos? What does this mean for shared reality? Revisiting Part 6. If even fundamental particles don't exist definitively until observed, then our shared reality might be a collective agreement, a communal consensus on which specific wave functions to collapse into existence. And what power does this subtly grant you over your experience of existence? Revisiting Part 5. If your perception is not just observing, but potentially participating in the manifestation of reality, then your attentional choices, your focus, your interpretations might literally be shaping the world you inhabit in ways you never dreamed possible. Yet, this isn't a descent into delusion. It's a profound invitation to re-enchantment and responsibility. This perspective liberates you from a purely mechanistic, indifferent universe, suggesting a more dynamic, participatory cosmos where your inner world is not separate from the outer. It emphasizes the profound, undeniable interconnectedness between mind and matter, between observer and observed. Your consciousness isn't merely a tiny light. You've dived headfirst into the profound depths of existence, shattering one assumption after another. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking reality, the biasing lenses of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, the pervasive hand of collective influence, the elasticity of time, and the breathtaking possibility that your unified self is a magnificent, emergent performance of the brain. Most recently, you grappled with the unsettling notion that the universe itself might be profoundly intertwined with, even dependent upon consciousness for its manifestation. But if the cosmos whispers into being through observation, and your mind plays a role in this cosmic dance, then what are the boundaries between your mind, my mind, and the vastness of existence itself? You've always operated under the premise that your consciousness is distinctly your own, haven't you? A private sanctuary of thought, feeling, and experience, walled off from all others. Your inner world, your dreams, your desires, they are intimately and uniquely yours. We feel ourselves as separate islands of awareness, distinct individuals navigating a shared but externally objective world. We celebrate our individuality, our unique perspectives, and our singular journeys, holding onto the comforting belief that our personal I is an isolated, autonomous entity. But here is a truth that dissolves the ultimate illusion, one that can feel both terrifying and ecstatically liberating. If the universe requires consciousness to manifest, and our individual consciousnesses are emergent performances, then perhaps these individual minds are not truly separate at all. Instead, they might be localized expressions, different facets, or distinct waves within a single, vast, underlying ocean of universal consciousness or fundamental awareness. The boundaries between your mind, my mind, and the universe itself begin to dissolve into a seamless, interwoven tapestry. Think of it like this: each of us is a wave on a vast, boundless ocean. Each wave feels distinct, with its own crest and trough, its own unique journey across the surface. It experiences itself as separate, as an individual entity, yet, fundamentally, each wave is nothing more than a movement of the same water. It cannot exist independently of the ocean. Its individuality is a temporary, local phenomenon of a much larger, continuous body. Similarly, your individual consciousness, your sense of I, might be a unique manifestation, a temporary localization of a single, universal field of awareness that pervades all existence. This concept resonates with ancient spiritual traditions and is hinted at by some interpretations of modern physics. Consider quantum entanglement, where two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one instantly influences the other, regardless of the distance separating them, a profound demonstration of interconnectedness at the deepest level of reality, even if not directly consciousness. If information is fundamental to the universe, and consciousness is the processing of information, then perhaps individual brains are merely sophisticated receivers or localizers of a pre-existing, universal informational field, rather than independent generators of consciousness from scratch. We are not just in the universe. We are the universe experiencing itself through countless unique, self-aware perspectives. We are the cosmos's own ongoing act of perception. What are the profound implications of this dissolution of separation? If you are a wave, what is the ocean that birthed you, that sustains you, that you will ultimately return to? Does this diminish your individuality or expand it, making your unique expression even more precious as a distinct facet of the universal? This challenges the very notion of ego, of my desires versus yours, my suffering versus yours. If we are all expressions of the same consciousness, then harming another is, in a very real sense, harming oneself. This transforms the very basis of empathy and morality, shifting them from abstract ideals to intrinsic, undeniable truths. Most human conflicts and divisions arise from a profound, deeply ingrained sense of us versus them. If, at the most fundamental level, there is only us, how does that reshape our understanding of peace, cooperation, and conflict resolution? What does it truly mean to be alone if you are always intimately connected to everything? Yet, this awareness is not a loss of identity. It is an expansion into a grander, more magnificent truth. It offers the ultimate source of compassion, connection, and purpose. It reveals that your individual expression, your unique gifts, your specific path, are not trivial. They are the universe's way of knowing itself, of experiencing its boundless potential through a myriad of distinct perspectives. This understanding can foster a profound sense of belonging, transforming existential isolation into a deep feeling of unity with all that is. It is a liberation from the isolating burden of absolute separation, offering a deep peace that transcends the fleeting joys and sorrows of individual form. It transforms fear of the void into a boundless wonder at the infinite ocean of being. So, as you go about your day, interacting with others, pursuing your goals, or simply reflecting on your existence, pause and feel the subtle hum of interconnectedness. How will you live today, knowing that your individual consciousness is a unique, precious manifestation of a boundless, interwoven awareness? How will this profound unity shape your choices, your compassion, your sense of responsibility? The journey continues, for the greatest unsettling truth is not just that your mind shapes the universe, but that the universe is your mind, perpetually and profoundly perceiving itself through you. You've plunged into the profound, the paradoxical, the truly unsettling. You've accepted that your very reality is a bespoke construction of your brain, shaped by the pervasive influence of beliefs, memories, and collective consciousness. You've grappled with the elasticity of time and the breathtaking possibility that your unified self is a magnificent, emergent performance, and that the universe itself whispers into being through the act of observation, connecting your mind to the cosmos in an unbreakable embrace. If we are all indeed waves upon a boundless ocean of awareness, distinct yet inseparable expressions of a singular, universal mind, then the most intimate and cherished aspect of your daily life demands re-examination: your free will. You live with the unwavering conviction that you are the author of your own story, don't you? That each choice you make, from the trivial to the monumental, is an uncoerced act of personal agency. When you choose your breakfast, select a career path, decide to speak or remain silent, you feel a distinct, undeniable sensation of being able to choose otherwise, of possessing genuine, spontaneous control over your actions. We revel in our autonomy, in the belief that we are truly steering the ship of our lives, charting a unique course through the vast sea of possibilities. But here is a truth that gently, yet profoundly, undermines that comforting illusion. If the universe is a unified field of consciousness, perpetually perceiving itself through countless individual expressions, then the very notion of absolute free will, for capacity to choose entirely independent of all prior conditions or the grand, cosmic unfolding, becomes deeply questionable. Are your choices truly novel acts of individual origination? Or are they the inevitable, albeit incredibly complex, expression of an interconnected system, a predetermined cosmic dance, or the self-perceiving universe unfolding its own potential through you? This doesn't necessarily reduce you to a robot. Rather, it challenges the comforting illusion of unconstrained, isolated agency, suggesting that your choices, while feeling real and personal, are also threads intricately woven into a much larger, perhaps already laid out, tapestry. The perceptual error lies in assuming our choices are uncaused or totally independent of the vast web of existence. Think of yourself as a single, exquisite note in a group. If the universe operates under strict cause and effect, then every future state is simply the inevitable consequence of past states. Down to the quantum level, even if quantum mechanics adds an element of probabilistic uncertainty, it's still not free will in the classical sense. If universal consciousness is unfolding through time, then your individual choices might be the very mechanism of that unfolding, rather than independent acts outside of it. Remember the illusion of control, part 5, where unconscious processes preceded conscious choice. This extends that phenomenon to a cosmic scale. If your unconscious is deeply connected to the collective, part 6, and the universal, part 9 and 10, then your choices become even less individual, less spontaneous than you had imagined. What are the profound implications of this intricate dance between free will and fate? If your choices are profoundly influenced, or even subtly predetermined by this grand, interwoven cosmic design, how can you truly be held accountable for your actions? Does it absolve you of guilt and blame, or does it amplify your connection to the ripple effects of your every deed across the universal tapestry? If, at some deeper level, there was truly no other choice than the one you made, does that alleviate the crushing burden of regret? Or does it intensify an existential angst, making your striving feel less meaningful? Why bother to strive, to plan, to dream, if everything is already laid out, merely waiting for you to perform your part? Yet, this isn't a denial of agency. It's a magnificent redefinition. Free will, in this light, is not absolute independence from the cosmos, but the profound capacity for conscious alignment with, and unique expression of, the cosmic flow. It's about how you respond to the unfolding, how you choose to engage with the grand symphony rather than simply initiating every note from scratch. Awareness of this deep interconnectedness can liberate you from the intense burden of hyper-individualistic responsibility. fostering humility and reducing the weight of regret. It encourages a deeper listening, an aligning with your deepest nature and the wisdom of the universal current. Your unique freedom lies in the specific, nuanced way you express the cosmic potential, in the subtle improvisations you bring to the score. This new perspective offers a profound form of liberation. It frees you from the exhausting pressure of having to create every moment from scratch, allowing for a surrender to a larger wisdom, finding peace in the graceful dance between your personal intention and the universal unfolding. True freedom is found not in absolute, isolated choice, but in the unique and authentic way you embody and express the interconnected web of all existence. So, as you face your next decision, however small, pause and feel the intricate interplay. How will you navigate the delicate, powerful dance between your profound inner freedom and the intricate web of universal design? How will you choose to consciously express the universal symphony that flows through you, knowing that your every choice, whether perceived as spontaneous or fated, is a unique, irreplaceable brushstroke on the ever-unfolding canvas of cosmic awareness? The journey continues, for the grandest choice of all may be to understand the nature of choice itself within the vast, living tapestry of the universe. You've moved through the profound realization that your perceived reality is a construct, your memory a fluid narrative, your conscious choices often reflections of deeper processes, and your very self a wave upon a universal ocean. You've even begun to dance with the unsettling interplay of free will and fate, recognizing your choices as unique expressions within a grand cosmic symphony. But as you embrace this interconnectedness, this universal consciousness that manifests through you, another disquieting truth emerges from the very heart of your expanded awareness. If your observation shapes reality, and if that reality is, in part, a projection of mind, what distortions, what imperfections, what shadows are you unconsciously casting upon the world? You likely believe that your intentions are generally good, your perceptions fair, and your actions, while sometimes flawed, are rooted in a desire for truth and progress. When you observe a situation, an individual, or a global event, you strive for objectivity, for a clear-eyed assessment. We generally assume that any errors in our judgment are accidental, minor missteps, easily corrected by more data or careful thought. You trust your capacity to discern, to understand, to witness without unduly influencing what you see. But here is the deeply unsettling whisper that arises from the profound insight of observer-dependent reality. Your presence, your very act of observation does not just bring potential into being, it can also inherently distort or limit that reality, often reflecting your own hidden biases, fears, and assumptions back at you. The universe isn't just a blank canvas waiting for your brushstroke, it's a dynamic, responsive medium, and the errors in your perception aren't always just about internal processing. They're about the indelible mark your subjectivity leaves on the observed world, often creating the very problems you perceive. Think of your consciousness not just as a light that illuminates, but as a light that carries its own imperfections, its own unique lens. When you shine a flashlight with a warped lens onto a wall, the image on the wall isn't a true reflection of the wall. It's a distorted version, shaped by the flaws in the lens itself. Similarly, your individual and collective consciousness, remembering Part 6 and Part 10, carries its own warpings, deeply ingrained biases, cultural conditioning, unresolved traumas, and unconscious projections. When this light of awareness shines upon the world, it doesn't just reveal, it inadvertently imprints these shadows onto the perceived reality. causing you to see problems, conflicts, or limitations that are, in a profound sense, co-created by your very act of looking. Consider the Rosenthal effect in psychology, where a researcher's expectations subtly influence the outcome of an experiment, even with plants or animals, or the placebo effect, where the mere belief in a treatment can manifest physiological changes in the body. These aren't just quirks of the mind. They are macroscopic demonstrations of the observer effect. If your expectations can literally change your biology or a scientific outcome, imagine how your collective fears, judgments, and projections might be inadvertently manifesting the very societal problems, conflict, scarcity, division that we lament. We are, perhaps, trapped in a self-fulfilling prophecy of perception, where our internal shadows cast external realities. The universe, in its profound interconnectedness, faithfully reflects back the distortions we bring to it. What are the profound implications of recognizing this shadow of the observer? If your very act of perception can create the problems you then observe, how much of the suffering in your life or in the world is an echo of your own unexamined internal landscape? Are the enemies you face truly external, or are they, in part, projections of your own unresolved fears and prejudices? This challenges the very notion of an objective problem, suggesting that many of the difficulties we encounter are not just out there, but are intrinsically linked to our own ways of seeing and being. It implies a deeper level of responsibility, moving beyond individual action to the very quality of our consciousness. If the universe is your mind perceiving itself, then any suffering in that perception is, at some level, a suffering of that mind. Yet, this isn't a descent into self-blame or despair. It's an urgent call to profound self-awareness and healing. Understanding that your internal state influences the external reality isn't about magical thinking. It's about recognizing the powerful, often unconscious, connection between your inner world and your perceived outer world. This awareness empowers you to become a more conscious observer, to purify your inner lens, to identify and integrate your own shadows. By doing the inner work, addressing biases, healing past wounds, cultivating compassion, you are not just changing yourself. You are, in a very real and profound sense, changing the very reality you participate in bringing forth. This new perspective offers a path to genuine liberation. It frees you. You've delved into the profound depths of what you once believed to be solid ground. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking reality, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, and the mind-bending notion that the universe itself whispers into being through the act of observation, intertwining your consciousness with the very fabric of existence. Most recently, you confronted the uncomfortable truth that your own internal shadows, your biases, fears, and projections can inadvertently distort the reality you perceive, even co-creating the very problems you observe. But if reality is so profoundly shaped by your inner state and by your act of looking, then how do you make sense of any of it? How does chaos resolve into coherence? You instinctively seek meaning, don't you? When something happens, whether it's a personal setback, a chance encounter, or a global event, you strive to understand why. You look for cause and effect, for purpose, for lessons learned. You believe that your life, like a well-written novel, has a natural, unfolding narrative, and that meaning is inherent in the events themselves, waiting for you to discover it. We cling to these stories, finding comfort and guidance in the plots we perceive, confident that the universe is revealing its logic to us. But here is a truth that gently, yet powerfully, exposes another layer of your mind's magnificent artistry. Meaning is not inherent in events. It is, overwhelmingly, a creation of your mind. Your brain is a relentless, meaning-making machine, an insatiable storyteller that constantly weaves fragmented experiences, random occurrences, and raw sensory data into coherent narratives. This urge to create story, to find patterns, and to assign causation is so powerful that it often overrides objective truth, leading you to see connections where none exist, assign deep purpose to random coincidences, or invent elaborate explanations for inexplicable events. Think of your brain not just as a detective, but as a detective who always finds a perpetrator and a motive, even if it has to invent them to close the case. Faced with a vacuum of meaning, your neural networks abhors a blank space. It will connect dots even if they aren't truly connected, preferring a flawed story to no story at all. Remember the split-brain patients from Part 8 whose left hemisphere would confabulate a logical reason for an action initiated by the right, even when it had no real access to the cause. This same fundamental drive to maintain coherence, to craft a compelling narrative of self and world, operates in your intact brain every single moment. Your limbic system, the seat of your emotions, often dictates the feeling of an event first. Then your rational mind scrambles to construct a plausible story around that feeling. A moment of unexplained anxiety might become a premonition. A sudden success might be attributed to destiny, rather than a confluence of random factors and effort. You are constantly constructing a coherent self-narrative, the story of who you are, where you came from, and where you're going, not as a dispassionate historian, but as a zealous biographer, selecting, editing, and interpreting events to maintain a consistent identity. This applies not just to personal history, but to our collective realities, linking to Part 6, where societies weave grand narratives about their past, their purpose, and their adversaries, often prioritizing emotional resonance and group cohesion over objective accuracy. What are the profound implications of recognizing your mind as this tireless, meaning-making machine? If meaning is created, not merely found, then is there any objective truth to why things happen, or only the meaning we give them? How much suffering in your life, regret, anger, victimhood, stems from clinging to disempowering narratives? I'm unlucky. I'm not good enough. I'll always be X, that you've unconsciously constructed about yourself or your past. Are your daily choices based on an accurate assessment of reality, or on compelling but potentially false stories you tell yourself about causes, effects, and your own capabilities? And how much of the division and conflict in the world stems from groups clinging to mutually exclusive, internally consistent, but externally unverified narratives about history, identity, or perceived injustices? We often fight not over facts, but over stories, yet this isn't a descent into meaninglessness. It's a monumental revelation of your profound agency. If meaning is something you create, not something you merely discover, then you possess immense power to choose empowering narratives. This knowledge liberates you from the tyranny of objective meaning, from the burden of events having only one fixed interpretation. You can consciously deconstruct unhelpful stories, the ones that limit you, disempower you, or make you feel stuck, and actively reconstruct new ones that serve your growth, your well-being, and your highest potential. You transform victimhood into authorship, turning challenges into lessons, setbacks into springboards, and your past into a canvas for new interpretation. This fosters a breathtaking resilience and a profound, creative power in shaping your life's purpose. So, as you interpret the events of your day, or reflect on the arc of your life, pause, ask yourself, what fundamental stories are you telling yourself about who you are, what happened, and what's possible? Are these stories serving you or binding you? How will you courageously begin to rewrite those narratives, not to deny reality, but to consciously imbue your experiences with meaning that empowers you to manifest a reality more aligned with your deepest desires and highest potential? The journey continues, for the ultimate creative act is not merely perceiving reality, but consciously crafting the very story you live by, thereby shaping the reality you inhabit. You've ventured deeper into the intricate workings of your own perception, uncovering layer after layer of the unseen architects of your reality. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking world, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, and the mind-bending notion that the universe itself whispers into being through the act of observation. Most recently, you confronted the uncomfortable truth that your internal shadows and the narratives you create can inadvertently distort the reality you perceive, even co-creating the very problems you observe. But if your brain is such an avid storyteller, constantly weaving meaning into existence, what does this mean for the most visceral, seemingly undeniable aspect of your inner world, your emotions? You experience emotions as direct, unadulterated responses to life, don't you? When you feel anger, it's because someone insulted you. When sorrow grips you, it's a pure reaction to loss. Joy erupts spontaneously from achievement. You trust your feelings implicitly, believing them to be raw, undeniable truths that instantly dictate your reactions and reveal the objective reality of a situation. We often say, "I can't help how I feel," suggesting emotions are an automatic, uncontrollable force that simply happens to us, bypassing our conscious will entirely. But here is a truth that fundamentally redefines your emotional landscape. Emotions are not merely raw, automatic responses. They are profoundly shaped by your interpretations and the narratives you've constructed about the events, yourself, and the world. The raw physical sensation of an emotion, a racing heart, a knot in your stomach, a surge of energy is often generic across different feelings. It's your brain's immediate, lightning-fast story about why you're experiencing that sensation and what it means in your current context that labels it as anger, fear, joy, or disgust. This means the truth of your emotions is deeply intertwined with the stories you tell yourself, often before consciousness has a chance to intervene. Think of your body's physical sensations during an emotional experience as raw, undifferentiated clay. Your brain then steps in as a master sculptor, rapidly shaping that clay into a specific emotional form based on the blueprint of. You've delved into the profound depths of what you once believed to be solid ground. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking reality, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, and the mind-bending notion that the universe itself whispers into being through the act of observation, intertwining your consciousness with the very fabric of existence. Most recently, you confronted the uncomfortable truth that your own internal shadows, your biases, fears, and projections can inadvertently distort the reality you perceive, even co-creating the very problems you observe. But if reality is so profoundly shaped by your inner state and by your act of looking, then how do you make sense of any of it? How does chaos resolve into coherence? You instinctively seek meaning, don't you, when something happens, whether it's a personal setback, a chance encounter, or a global event. You strive to understand why. You look for cause and effect, for purpose, for lessons learned. You believe that your life, like a well-written novel, has a natural, unfolding narrative, and that meaning is inherent in the events themselves, waiting for you to discover it. We cling to these stories, finding comfort and guidance in the plots we perceive, confident that the universe is revealing its logic to us. But here is a truth that gently, yet powerfully, exposes another layer of your mind's magnificent artistry. Meaning is not inherent in events. It is, overwhelmingly, a creation of your mind. Your brain is a relentless, meaning-making machine, an insatiable storyteller that constantly weaves fragmented experiences, random occurrences, and raw sensory data into coherent narratives. This urge to create story, to find patterns, and to assign causation is so powerful that it often overrides objective truth, leading you to see connections where none exist, assign deep purpose to random coincidences, or invent elaborate explanations for inexplicable events. Think of your brain not just as a detective, but as a detective who always finds a perpetrator and a motive, even if it has to invent them to close the case. Faced with a vacuum of meaning, your neural networks abhors a blank space. It will connect dots, even if they aren't truly connected, preferring a flawed story to no story at all. Remember the split-brain patients from Part 8, whose left hemisphere would confabulate a logical reason for an action initiated by the right, even when it had no real access to the cause. This same fundamental drive to maintain coherence, to craft a compelling narrative of self and world, operates in your intact brain every single moment. Your limbic system, the seat of your emotions, often dictates the feeling of an event first. Then your rational mind scrambles to construct a plausible story around that feeling. A moment of unexplained anxiety might become a premonition. A sudden success might be attributed to destiny rather than a confluence of random factors and effort. You are constantly constructing a coherent self-narrative, the story of who you are, where you came from, and where you're going. Not as a dispassionate historian, but as a zealous biographer, selecting, editing, and interpreting events to maintain a consistent identity. This applies not just to personal history, but to our collective realities, linking to Part 6, where societies weave grand narratives about their past, their purpose, and their adversaries, often prioritizing emotional resonance and group cohesion over objective accuracy. What are the profound implications of recognizing your mind as this tireless meaning-making machine? If meaning is created, not merely found, then is there any objective truth to why things happen, or only the meaning we give them? How much suffering in your life, regret, anger, victimhood, stems from clinging to disempowering narratives? I'm unlucky, I'm not good enough, I'll always be X, that you've unconsciously constructed about yourself or your past? Are your daily choices based on an accurate assessment of reality, or on compelling but potentially false stories you tell yourself about causes, effects, and your own capabilities? And how much of the division and conflict in the world stems from groups clinging to mutually exclusive, internally consistent, but externally unverified narratives about history, identity, or perceived injustices? We often fight, not over facts, but over stories. Yet, this isn't a descent into meaninglessness. It's a monumental revelation of your profound agency. If meaning is something you create, not something you merely discover, then you possess immense power to choose empowering narratives. This knowledge liberates you from the tyranny of objective meaning, from the burden of events having only one fixed interpretation. You can consciously deconstruct unhelpful stories, the ones that limit you, disempower you, or make you feel stuck, and actively reconstruct new ones that serve your growth, your well-being, and your highest potential. You transform victimhood into authorship, turning challenges into lessons, setbacks into springboards, and your past into a canvas for new interpretation. This fosters a breathtaking resilience and a profound, creative power in shaping your life's purpose. So, as you interpret the events of your day, or reflect on the arc of your life, pause, ask yourself, what fundamental stories are you telling yourself about who you are, what happened, and what's possible? Are these stories serving you or binding you? How will you courageously begin to rewrite those narratives, not to deny reality, but to consciously imbue your experiences with meaning that empowers you to manifest a reality more aligned with your deepest desires and highest potential? The journey continues, for the ultimate creative act is not merely perceiving reality, but consciously crafting the very story you live by, thereby shaping the reality you inhabit. You've ventured deeper into the intricate workings of your own perception, uncovering layer after layer of the unseen architects of your reality. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking world, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, and the mind-bending notion that the universe itself whispers into being through the act of observation. Most recently, you confronted the uncomfortable truth that your internal shadows and the narratives you create can inadvertently distort the reality you perceive, even co-creating the very problems you observe. But if your brain is such an avid storyteller, constantly weaving meaning into existence, what does this mean for the most visceral, seemingly undeniable aspect of your inner world? Your emotions. You experience emotions as direct, unadulterated responses to life, don't you? When you feel anger, it's because someone insulted you. When sorrow grips you, it's a pure reaction to loss. Joy erupts spontaneously from achievement. You trust your feelings implicitly, believing them to be raw, undeniable truths that instantly dictate your reactions and reveal the objective reality of a situation. We often say, "I can't help how I feel," suggesting emotions are an automatic, uncontrollable force that simply happens to us, bypassing our conscious will entirely. But here is a truth that fundamentally redefines your emotional landscape. Emotions are not merely raw, automatic responses. They are profoundly shaped by your interpretations and the narratives you've constructed about the events, yourself, and the world. The raw physical sensation of an emotion, a racing heart, a knot in your stomach, a surge of energy is often generic across different feelings. It's your brain's immediate, lightning-fast story about why you're experiencing that sensation, and what it means in your current context that labels it as anger, fear, joy, or disgust. This means the truth of your emotions is deeply intertwined with the stories you tell yourself, often before consciousness has a chance to intervene. Think of your body's physical sensations during an emotional experience as raw, undifferentiated clay. Your brain then steps in as a master sculptor, rapidly shaping that clay into a specific emotional form based on the blueprint of the narratives it has ready. The same physical arousal, increased heart rate, sweaty palms, tightened muscles could be interpreted as exhilarating anticipation if you're about to ride a roller coaster, or terrifying fear if you're about to give a public speech, or furious anger if you perceive an injustice. Your brain is constantly making effective predictions, trying to anticipate your emotional state based on your past experiences and current mental schemas. When its predictions are off, it generates a prediction error that you experience as a strong feeling, which it then rushes to label with a story. Consider a simple experiment. You feel a physical arousal, perhaps from a shot of adrenaline. If someone then tells you they've had a bad day, you might label that arousal as irritation. If they tell you they've just won the lottery, you might label the exact same physical sensation as elation. The context and the narrative you create dictates the feeling. This is why cognitive reappraisal, consciously changing the way you think about a situation, is such a powerful tool in emotional regulation. You're not suppressing the feeling, you're changing the story that defines it, and in doing so, you literally change the emotion itself. Your emotions are not fixed, immutable truths. They are dynamic, constructed experiences, always in dialogue with the narratives you house. What are the profound implications of recognizing your emotions as sculpted by narrative? If your feelings are constructed, are they truly authentic, or are they merely the most convincing stories your brain tells itself in the moment? This doesn't make them any less real in their experience, but it gives you immense leverage. How much unnecessary suffering stems from misinterpreting your own emotional states, or being trapped in narratives that endlessly fuel negative emotional loops. I'm always angry. I'm never good enough to be happy. Are your emotional choices out, withdrawing, pursuing fleeting pleasures, reaction to a true feeling, or a feeling interpreted through a potentially flawed or disempowering narrative? And for empathy, revisiting part 6 and 10. If others are constructing their emotions based on their narratives, how can we truly understand their feelings without first trying to understand the stories that give rise to them? It demands a deeper level of inquiry and non-judgment, yet this isn't a dismissal of the validity of your feelings. It's an invitation to profound emotional intelligence and resilience. Understanding the constructed nature of emotion offers you immense power to influence your own emotional experience. You are not a passive recipient of feelings. You are an active participant in their creation. By consciously challenging and reshaping the narratives and interpretations that give rise to your emotions, you can transform them. This is the essence of effective emotional regulation. Not by suppressing feelings, but by choosing the stories that define them, transforming potentially destructive emotions into sources of insight, compassion, or constructive action. You are liberated from being a slave to raw, unexamined feelings, gaining the capacity to truly choose your emotional responses. So, the next time a strong emotion washes over you, be it anger, fear, or profound sadness, pause before you react. Feel the raw sensation in your body, and then ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about why I'm feeling this, and what does it mean? How will you courageously examine those narratives, and by consciously reshaping them, liberate yourself from unnecessary suffering, transforming your emotional landscape into a source of profound wisdom and freedom? thereby unlocking a new level of mastery over the choices those feelings would otherwise dictate. The journey continues, now leading you to unravel the intimate connection between the stories you tell and the feelings that color your every moment. You've continued your remarkable descent into the intricate machinery of your perception, dismantling layer after layer of assumed truths. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking reality, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, the mind-bending notion that the universe whispers into being through observation, and the profound realization that your internal shadows and self-created narratives shape the world you perceive. Most recently, you confronted how even your emotions are not raw reactions, but stories your brain tells itself. But if your internal narratives dictate your emotional landscape, what then fuels your relentless drive, your pursuit of goals, your incessant yearning for more? You live with the clear conviction that your motivations are rational, logical drives towards objective goals, happiness, success, security, love. You believe you know precisely what you want, and you pursue it with deliberate choices, confident that achieving these desires will bring lasting satisfaction. When you set a goal, work diligently towards a promotion, or dream of a future state, you experience a potent, undeniable pull, a clear sense of what will make you whole. We strive, we accumulate, we conquer, all under the comforting assumption that our choices are a direct path to enduring fulfillment. But here is a truth that can feel profoundly disarming, exposing the subtle, relentless treadmill of desire. Your motivations are often not stable pursuits of objective satisfaction. Instead, they are profoundly influenced by your brain's predictive reward systems, which are easily misled by perceived rather than actual value, fleeting novelty, and the intoxicating anticipation of more. This means you might be perpetually chasing an illusory future, driven by a dopamine-fueled quest that, paradoxically, leaves you feeling empty even after achieving what you thought you wanted. Your choices are constantly steered by a system designed for primal survival and relentless seeking, not necessarily for lasting contentment. This is the profound perception error of the hungry ghost of desire. Think of your brain's desire system not as a meter that indicates true satisfaction, but as a perpetually hungry ghost, always looking for the next meal, even if it just finished eating. Its primary fuel is not the food itself, but the anticipation of it. Scientifically, this is largely driven by dopamine. Dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical, as commonly believed. It's the seeking or wanting chemical. It fires most strongly not when you receive a reward, but in anticipation of it, or when a reward is unexpected. It's the thrill of the chase, the yearning for the next hit, the relentless pull towards something just out of reach. Your brain quickly learns to associate environmental cues, a notification, a new item in a store, a social media like with a potential reward, creating powerful, often unconscious, motivational loops. This is the essence of the hedonic treadmill. You get that new car, that promotion, that perfect relationship, and for a brief moment, there's a surge of pleasure. But almost immediately, your brain adapts to this new baseline. What was once novel and exciting becomes normal, and the dopamine system, ever vigilant for the next potential reward, resets, urging you onward to seek more. This was incredibly adaptive in ancestral environments, constantly pushing us to seek more resources, more safety, more mates. But in our modern world of abundance, it often traps us in a perpetual cycle of craving, consumption, and fleeting satisfaction, making sustained contentment an elusive mirage. Your choices become a relentless pursuit of the next dopamine hit, rather than a conscious alignment with genuine, deep fulfillment. What are the profound implications of being driven by this hungry ghost of desire? Why does sustained happiness feel so elusive in a world overflowing with choices and material comfort? How much of your compulsive behavior, endless scrolling through social media, workaholism, excessive consumption, even addiction is driven by this wanting system overriding your capacity for genuine liking or contentment? Are your daily choices truly bringing you a sense of purpose and well-being? Or are they merely perpetuating a chase that promises much but delivers little lasting joy? We build entire economies and societal values linking to Part 6 around this engineered, unsatisfiable desire for more, perpetuating a collective delusion that true happiness lies just beyond the next acquisition, the next achievement. Yet, this isn't a pronouncement of meaninglessness or a condemnation of desire. It's a powerful invitation to a deeper understanding of satisfaction. Awareness of the dopamine system's powerful mechanisms allows you to consciously override or redirect its signals. You can begin to disentangle the fleeting wanting from the profound liking of genuine contentment. This understanding empowers you to shift from a perpetual quest for external validation and fleeting thrills to a mindful appreciation of the present moment, from chasing future echoes to cultivating internal fulfillment. This liberation frees you from the exhausting tyranny of the hedonic treadmill. It allows for a radical reevaluation of your values, guiding your choices not towards what the hungry ghost whispers, but towards what truly nourishes your soul and brings sustainable well-being. Cultivating gratitude, practicing presence, and deeply appreciating what is, these become not just abstract ideals, but practical pathways to sustainable happiness, transforming the relentless chase into a profound and meaningful journey. So, as you feel the subtle pull of wanting, the urge for the next thing, pause. Ask yourself, am I truly desiring what I think I desire, or merely the anticipation of it? How will you consciously choose to disentangle your wanting from your liking? And by understanding the powerful, yet often misguided, pull of desire, redirect your choices towards genuine, sustainable contentment rather than the endless chase. The journey continues, now leading you to reclaim your choices from the insatiable grip of a system designed for seeking, and to find true fulfillment in the profound stillness of appreciative being. You've plunged ever deeper into the profound, unearthing the hidden architects of your perceived reality. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking world, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, the mind-bending notion that the universe whispers into being through observation, and the profound realization that your internal shadows and self-created narratives shape the world you perceive, even crafting your emotions. Most recently, you confronted the hungry ghost of desire, perpetually chasing satisfaction that never quite lands. But if this relentless craving dictates so many of your choices, how does it intertwine with your fundamental perception of what's available to you in the world? You intuitively believe that fear is a rational, necessary response to genuine threats or real scarcity, don't you? When resources dwindle, when competition intensifies, or when danger looms, you feel a natural urge to be cautious, to protect what you have, and to compete fiercely for what you need. You save for retirement, you guard your loved ones, you hustle for promotions, believing these choices are pragmatic, logical reactions to an objectively limited world. We are, after all, wired for survival, and the perception of lack spurs us to action. But here is a truth that can feel deeply unsettling, exposing another ancient mechanism that now often works against your greater well-being. Your perception of scarcity is often an ingrained automatic response, disproportionate to actual threat or genuinely limited resources. This fear-based narrow vision literally shuts down your ability to perceive abundance, new possibilities, or creative solutions, forcing your choices into a reactive, defensive, and often self-fulfilling loop. The perceptual error isn't that fear exists, but that it blinds you to the vastness of what truly is, convincing you that limitations are inherent rather than often self-imposed. Think of your brain under the influence of fear or perceived scarcity as a powerful camera that zooms in relentlessly on a single dark spot, blurring everything else around it. Your visual field narrows, your mental bandwidth shrinks, and your focus becomes fixated on the immediate lack or threat. This is the ancient fight-or-flight response, where the amygdala, your brain's alarm bell, rapidly hijacks cognitive resources, diverting them from the prefrontal cortex, the seat of complex problem-solving, creativity, empathy, and long-term planning, to primal survival mechanisms. You literally become less intelligent, less innovative, and less open to new ideas when consumed by the fear of not having enough. This isn't just about financial poverty. It's about a scarcity mindset that can apply to anything: time, attention, love, opportunities, ideas. If you believe you don't have enough time, you rush, become inefficient, and end up with even less time, missing moments of presence. If you perceive a scarcity of love, you might cling, become jealous, or push others away, inadvertently creating the very isolation you fear. Your brain, ever the diligent confirmer of its own biases, remember part 2, actively seeks out evidence for lack, noticing every closed door while remaining blind to open windows. You're living in a house with all the curtains drawn, convinced there's no light outside, even as the sun blazes. What are the profound implications of operating from this fear-induced narrow vision? How many dreams are abandoned? How many risks avoided? How many innovative solutions left undiscovered due to an overactive fear of loss or perceived inadequacy? In relationships, a scarcity mindset towards trust or affection can lead to possessiveness, control, and a self-fulfilling prophecy of betrayal. On a societal level, revisiting part 6 and 10, are many global problems: resource conflicts, economic inequality, social division rooted more deeply in a collective scarcity mindset than in genuine material lack. If fear restricts your cognitive bandwidth and blinds you to possibilities, how free are your choices when operating under its pervasive influence? Are you truly choosing, or merely reacting from a place of primal, programmed defense? Yet, this isn't a condemnation of fear. It's an urgent call to understand its mechanism and reclaim your cognitive sovereignty. Fear is a vital signal, but it's not always an accurate guide to reality. Recognizing its tendency to induce tunnel vision empowers you to consciously resist its pull. By acknowledging the fear without being consumed by it, you can intentionally activate your prefrontal cortex, accessing creativity, foresight, and empathy. This allows you to perceive new solutions, hidden opportunities, and the vast, often invisible, abundance that was always present. It's about discerning real threats from perceived threats, and then choosing your response from a place of expansive awareness not contracted fear. This new perspective offers a path to profound liberation. It frees you from the self-imposed prison of scarcity, enabling proactive, creative, and collaborative choices. You move from merely surviving to genuinely thriving. From clutching what little you perceive you have to generously creating and sharing from an overflowing well of possibility. It empowers you to break cycles of competition and isolation, unlocking innovation and generosity by intentionally shifting to an abundance mindset, focusing on what is available and what can be created. So, as anxieties arise, as you feel the pinch of perceived lack in any area of your life, pause. Ask yourself, what ingrained narratives of scarcity am I unconsciously clinging to? How will I bravely look beyond the immediate threat, expanding my vision to perceive the boundless possibilities and abundance that fear's narrow vision has hidden from me? How will you reshape your choices, moving from reactive defense to conscious creation, from a mindset of survival to a life of flourishing? The journey continues, now leading you to illuminate the hidden reservoirs of potential, transforming fear's illusion into the vibrant reality of infinite possibility. You've plunged into the profound, the paradoxical, and the deeply personal, unearthing the hidden architects of your perceived reality. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking world, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, the mind-bending notion that the universe whispers into being through observation, and the profound realization that your internal shadows and self-created narratives distort the world you perceive, even crafting your emotions and fueling the hungry ghost of desire that drives your choices through a narrow vision of scarcity. But as you expand your awareness, seeking to transcend fear and embrace abundance, you confront perhaps the most ancient and tenacious of all perceptual errors, the invisible walls we build between ourselves. You likely believe you judge individuals on their merits, don't you? That your opinions are formed through rational assessment, independent of superficial group affiliations. While you acknowledge the existence of families, nationalities, or political parties, you strive for fairness, for impartiality, confident that any conflicts that arise are due to objective differences in values or resources, not mere perception. We pride ourselves on being open-minded, on seeing the individual beyond the label. But here is a truth that can feel devastatingly simple, yet devastatingly profound in its implications for humanity. Your brain is hardwired for rapid categorization, for instantly sorting individuals into us, the in-group, and them, the out-group. This isn't just a learned social construct. It's a deep-seated neurological process, an ancient tribal imperative for survival that prioritizes swift identification of allies versus threats. This fundamental, often unconscious, division leads to automatic biases, the subtle or overt demonization of the other, and a profound inability to perceive shared humanity or common ground, even when factual evidence vehemently suggests otherwise. The greatest perception error, the root of so much conflict, is often the illusion of absolute separation between groups. Think of your brain as a tireless bouncer at the club of your consciousness, instantly deciding who's in and who's out. Once categorized, individuals within our group are automatically granted positive attributes. They are trustworthy, competent, intelligent, empathetic. Those in their group, however, are subtly or overtly stripped of these qualities, becoming suspicious, less capable, less empathetic, or even less human. This isn't a conscious choice. It's a perceptual shortcut, driven by efficiency and an evolutionary drive to protect the tribe. Your brain actively seeks out and prioritizes information that confirms its positive view of us, and its negative view of them, linking directly back to confirmation bias. Part 2. Any contradictory evidence is ignored, explained away, or rationalized. Consider how easily this us versus them dynamic flares up in everyday situations, in sports rivalries, political debates, or even schoolyard cliques. The moment a perceived other is introduced, your brain's ancient wiring activates. We feel social pain, which registers similarly to physical pain in the brain when rejected by our in-group, but are often less affected by the suffering of an outgroup. This unconscious dehumanization, where they become abstract, less real, less deserving of empathy, makes aggression, indifference, and systemic injustice frighteningly easier. Remember how fear narrows your vision. Part 16. This tribal wiring intensifies under stress, amplifying the perceived threat from the other, further cementing the division. You are, in essence, a cell in a vast, interconnected body. But your perception tells you that cells of a different organ are them, prompting you to attack, leading to systemic illness and widespread suffering. What are the profound implications of this ingrained us versus them brain divide? Why does global cooperation feel so impossibly difficult when facing existential threats like climate change or pandemics? Are these conflicts truly inevitable, or are they, at their core, tragic products of perceptual biases that blind us to shared needs and common solutions? How do we achieve true justice and equality in a world where our brains are wired for unconscious prejudice? If, as we explored in Part 10, we are all expressions of a single, universal consciousness, then how does this deeply rooted illusion of separation persist, constantly blocking true connection and collective well-being? Your choices, from who you vote for to who you empathize with, are being subtly or overtly influenced by this tribal wiring, often without your conscious consent. Yet, this isn't an insurmountable flaw in the human spirit. It's a fundamental challenge to transcend. Recognizing this hardwired bias doesn't condemn you to prejudice. It empowers you to consciously override it. Awareness of the us versus them mechanism is the first critical step towards dismantling those invisible walls, cultivating radical empathy, actively seeking common ground, and courageously challenging your own implicit biases. Become conscious, deliberate practices. It involves engaging with individuals, not labels, and training your brain to see shared humanity even in the face of superficial differences. This enables you to choose universal well-being over tribal loyalty, to prioritize collaboration over competition. This new perspective offers a path to genuine liberation, freeing you from the inherited burdens of prejudice, conflict, and division. It opens up profound possibilities for understanding, for true dialogue, and for solving complex global challenges by perceiving shared humanity and collective potential. You are not destined to be defined by ancient tribal instincts. You possess the capacity to forge new, inclusive narratives that reflect the interconnected truth of existence. So, as you encounter differences, as you feel the subtle tug of categorization or the impulse to judge, pause. Ask yourself, what invisible walls is my brain building between us and them right now? How will you consciously choose to dismantle these ingrained divides? And by actively seeking shared humanity, contribute to a world where choices are made from a place of unity, wisdom, and boundless compassion, rather than perpetual perceived division. The journey continues, for the greatest act of connection begins with seeing the other not as a separate entity, but as another vibrant expression of the same infinite whole. You've pressed further into the profound, exploring the very fabric of your perceived existence. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking world, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, the mind-bending notion that the universe whispers into being through observation, and the profound realization that your internal shadows and self-created narratives distort the world you perceive, even crafting your emotions and fueling the hungry ghost of desire that drives your choices through a narrow vision of scarcity. Most recently, you confronted the deeply ingrained us versus them divide, exposing its role in perpetuating conflict. But what of the deepest human experience, the one that touches us all, regardless of creed or boundary? Suffering. You instinctively understand suffering as an objective, inevitable response to negative external events or internal predispositions, don't you? When physical injury strikes, when sorrow grips you with loss, when anxiety tightens, it's not, you believe that pain is simply pain, it is. You are suffering, and your only choice is how to endure it, to ride out the storm until it passes. We often conflate the raw sensation of discomfort with the prolonged anguish it can trigger, assuming one automatically dictates the other, and that our choices are limited to managing an unavoidable affliction. But here is a truth that liberates as much as it unsettles, challenging the very nature of your deepest distress. While the initial sensation of pain or discomfort is undeniably real, much of what you perceive as suffering, the mental anguish, the emotional turmoil, the prolonged distress is not an automatic, fixed consequence of an event. Instead, it is profoundly amplified, extended, and even created by your brain's resistance, interpretation, and narrative construction around that raw sensation or event. The profound perception error lies in mistaking the initial, unavoidable, first arrow of pain for the self-inflicted, often optional, second arrow of suffering. Think of it like this. You get a splinter in your finger, the sharp jab, the immediate discomfort. That's the first arrow, the raw, unavoidable pain. But then, your mind gets to work. It might start complaining, why me? Ruminating, this always happens to me. Fearing, what if it gets infected? Or resisting, I hate this feeling. The constant fiddling with the splinter, the endless stream of negative thoughts, the emotional storm you brew around it. That's the second arrow, the self-created suffering. The suffering is not the splinter itself, but your mind's elaborate, often unconscious, reaction to it. Your brain, the tireless, meaning-making machine, part 13, immediately constructs a story around the discomfort. And if that story is one of victimhood, injustice, or catastrophe, it fuels the anguish. This phenomenon is evident in our neurological responses. When your brain's threat detection system, the amygdala, from part 16, fires in response to a physical sensation or perceived loss, it's merely a signal. It's your prefrontal cortex, your interpretive brain, that then layers on the narrative and the resistance. This is why practices like mindfulness teach you to observe sensation without adding the story, to feel the physical discomfort without automatically spiraling into mental anguish. This is also a key principle in understanding chronic pain. Often, even after the initial physical injury heals, the brain continues to create and maintain pain pathways, driven by a fear-based expectation and the narrative of perpetual suffering. You might be inadvertently prolonging your own pain, caught in a loop of resistance and negative storytelling, thereby making choices that deepen your distress rather than alleviating it. What are the profound implications of recognizing this distinction between pain and suffering? If pain is inevitable, a part of life's raw experience, but suffering is largely optional, what have you been unconsciously choosing to feel? How much personal resilience and capacity for joy are limited by an inability to distinguish between unavoidable discomfort and avoidable mental anguish? For compassion, revisiting part 17, if we understand that others, too, are often caught in their own second arrow loops, struggling with their internal narratives and resistance, it fosters a profound, non-judgmental empathy. It helps us see beyond the surface reaction to the deeper, shared human struggle. Can suffering, when stripped of its narrative overlay, become a profound teacher, a crucible for wisdom rather than a relentless tormentor? And how often do you make reactive choices, lashing out, withdrawing, self-medicating, or compulsively seeking pleasure? Part 15, driven by the amplified suffering, rather than a clear-eyed response to the initial, manageable pain. Yet, this isn't a dismissal of your pain or an accusation of personal failing. It's a profound distinction, a key to liberation. Understanding that pain is a sensation, but suffering is often a story combined with resistance, empowers you to consciously observe discomfort without automatically adding the second arrow. It fosters radical acceptance and mindful presence, which are not passive resignations, but active pathways to genuine emotional freedom. This involves cultivating compassion for oneself and one's experience, allowing feelings to simply be, without judgment or elaborate narrative. This new perspective offers a path to profound transformation. It frees you from the self-imposed prison of extended anguish, allowing you to choose your responses to life's challenges from a place of wisdom rather than reactivity. It transforms life's inevitable difficulties into opportunities for growth, learning, and peace. You can reclaim your power, not by eliminating pain, but by transforming your relationship with it. So, the next time a wave of discomfort, sorrow, or fear washes over you, pause, feel the raw sensation in your body, and then courageously ask yourself, what narratives am I telling myself right now that are transforming this initial pain into prolonged suffering? How will I choose to respond to this moment, separating the undeniable reality of pain from the constructed narrative of suffering? And by embracing radical acceptance and mindful presence, reclaim my power to transform every experience into a pathway for profound wisdom and peace. The journey continues, now leading you to navigate the deepest currents of human experience with an illuminated understanding, transforming perceived anguish into liberated possibility. You've traveled through the profound, the paradoxical, the deeply personal, and the widely collective. You've journeyed through the constructed nature of your waking reality, the biasing filters of your beliefs, the fluid unreliability of memory, the subtle illusion of conscious control, and the pervasive hand of collective influence. You've grappled with the elasticity of time, the emergent performance of your unified self, the mind-bending notion that the universe whispers into being through observation, and the profound realization that your internal shadows and self-created narratives distort the world you perceive, crafting your emotions, fueling the hungry ghost of desire, and narrowing your vision with fear-based scarcity. Most recently, you confronted the deeply ingrained us versus them divide, and then the optionality of suffering itself. But if so much of your pain is self-created, and if your motivations are an endless chase, what does this mean for your relentless drive for progress, for for achievement, for that elusive state of perfection. You live with the comforting belief that progress is linear, that achievement is about reaching definitive goals, and that perfection is a noble aspiration, don't you? You strive tirelessly to finish tasks, hit targets, and eventually arrive at a state of completion or mastery, after which you can finally rest or be truly satisfied. You set ambitious career goals, pursue advanced education, seek out perfect relationships, meticulously tidy your home, or envision an ideal future, all under the pervasive assumption that if I just get there, then I'll be happy, complete, and finally at peace. But here is a truth that can feel profoundly exhausting and eternally unfulfilling. Your brain is often trapped in a perpetual pursuit, driven by a perceptual error that defines completion or perfection as an endlessly receding horizon. This isn't just about external goals, it's an insidious internal mechanism that constantly redefines enough, pushing you towards an always moving finish line. The moment you achieve one aspiration, your brain immediately sets a new, higher one, or finds new flaws in the current state, ensuring that true, lasting satisfaction remains just out of reach. This leads to chronic dissatisfaction, relentless striving, burnout, and an inability to truly savor accomplishments. Think of it like running a marathon where, every time you near the finish line, an invisible hand moves it further away. The race becomes the point, not the completion. Scientifically, this is deeply intertwined with hedonic adaptation, revisited from part 15. Your brain is wired for problem solving and novelty. Once a problem, your current state, or unfulfilled desire is solved by achieving a goal, the dopamine system, your wanting chemical, briefly registers satisfaction, but then quickly resets. What was once novel and exciting rapidly becomes the new normal, and your brain immediately begins seeking the next hit, the next challenge, the next improvement. This constant recalibration means that true enough or perfect is always a future state, never the present one. Consider the pervasive nature of perfectionism. It's not about healthy high standards. It's about a relentless feeling of not good enough, regardless of accomplishment. It's driven by a fear of failure, part 16, and a deep-seated, often unconscious, belief that external achievement is the sole path to internal worth. We are constantly conditioned by societal narratives, part 6, of endless growth, acquisition, and self-improvement, reinforcing the idea that there's always a next level to reach, a next thing to accumulate, a next iteration of self to perfect. You are like a tireless artist, perpetually adding one more stroke to a painting, incapable of declaring it truly finished, and thus missing the beauty of its current, vibrant state. What are the profound implications of living on this perpetual treadmill, chasing an always moving finish line? Why do so many successful people often feel unfulfilled, exhausted, or empty despite achieving everything they once desired? Is the relentless drive for more ultimately self-defeating, ensuring a lifetime of dissatisfaction? If enough is a constantly shifting illusion, how can you ever feel truly worthy, content, or at peace with yourself? This mindset often paralyzes action, as the fear of imperfection or incompletion, part 16, prevents you from starting or from truly enjoying the process. Are your daily choices driven by genuine purpose and an enjoyment of the journey, or by an anxious, endless pursuit of an unreachable ideal? Yet, this isn't a call to abandon ambition or cease striving for excellence. It's a magnificent invitation to redefine success and cultivate profound contentment. Awareness allows you to consciously step off the treadmill. You can practice the art of good enough, savoring accomplishments, and cultivating present moment satisfaction. Linking to time, Part 7. As vigorously as you pursue future goals. This involves cultivating self-compassion, recognizing that your worth is not contingent on external achievements, and redefining perfection not as flawlessness, but as wholehearted engagement in the process itself. This new perspective offers a path to genuine liberation. It frees you from the tyranny of the always moving finish line, allowing you to make choices from a place of sufficiency, appreciation, and intrinsic joy, rather than endless striving. You gain the capacity for sustainable growth, true contentment, and a deep appreciation for the richness of the perfectly imperfect present moment. So, as you set your next goal, or find yourself critiquing your current state, pause. Ask yourself, is this pursuit driven by genuine purpose and joy in the process, or by the illusion of an always moving finish line? How will you consciously redefine your relationship with achievement and perfection, choosing to find profound satisfaction not in an ever-receding future, but in the vibrant, unfolding, perfectly imperfect present moment, thereby liberating your choices from endless striving and unlocking a deeper, more sustainable well-being? The journey continues, now inviting you to discover that true fulfillment lies not in reaching a destination, but in embracing the sacred, dynamic dance of being. You've reached the precipice of understanding, standing at the culmination of a profound journey into the very architecture of your existence. You've grappled with unsettling truths, dismantling layers of assumptions you once held as undeniably real, that your waking reality is a continuous construction of your brain, subtly biased by your beliefs and deep-seated skepticism, that your memories are fluid, dynamic narratives, not fixed archives, that your conscious choices are often the elegant afterthoughts of your unconscious mind, and that your very sense of self is an emergent performance, a temporary wave upon a boundless ocean of universal consciousness. You've journeyed through the elasticity of time, the mind-bending notion that the universe itself whispers into being through observation, and the profound realization that your internal shadows, your fears, biases, and unexamined narratives can inadvertently distort the world you perceive, creating the very problems you observe. You've understood how your emotions are not raw reactions, but intricate stories your brain tells itself, how the hungry ghost of desire endlessly propels you through a narrow vision of scarcity, how the ancient us versus them divide perpetuates conflict, and how much of your suffering is, paradoxically, a product of your own resistance and narrative construction. Even as you strive for perfection at an always moving finish line, the sheer weight of these revelations might feel overwhelming, tempting you to retreat to the comforting illusion of a simpler, more predictable world. The instinct to fall back into old patterns, to believe in a fixed, objective reality out there, and a small, helpless self in here, is powerful. It is the ultimate, most pervasive perception error that has controlled your choices, your contentment, and your very experience of being. But here, at the threshold of this final understanding, the most profound truth emerges, the very belief that reality is a fixed, objective thing, entirely separate from your consciousness, and that you are merely a passive observer within it, is the grand deception. And deception, this fundamental misapprehension, this final veil, is the root of most disempowerment, the source of feeling adrift in a world you cannot control. The ultimate power lies not in changing external circumstances, but in understanding that your perception is the very interface through which reality manifests for you, and thus, your ultimate act of creation. You don't just change your life by changing your perception. You participate in the ongoing, miraculous co-creation of reality itself. Think of it not just as watching a play, but as discovering you are simultaneously the playwright, the director, the lead actor, and the stage designer of your own life's grand performance. All the unsettling truths we've uncovered converge here. If your brain constantly constructs your reality, part 1, then you can learn to become a conscious architect of that construction. If your beliefs and skimmers bias your perception, parts 2 and 3, then you possess the profound neuroplasticity to literally rewire your perceptual habits, dissolve old maps, and build new, empowering narratives. If your memory is a fluid, reconstructive process, part 4, then you are continuously shaping your past, able to reinterpret it to serve your growth and well-being. If conscious control is often a rationalization, part 5, you gain agency by shaping the unconscious processes that lead to choices, aligning them with your highest intentions. If your reality is built by others, part 6, you can choose to become a critical consumer of societal narratives, building bridges beyond the us versus them divide, part 17, to perceive shared humanity. If time is elastic and the now a constructed duration, part 7, you gain the profound ability to influence your experience of time by cultivating presence and intention. If yourself is an emergent performance, part 8, and you are interconnected with all of existence, part 10, then your purpose shifts from isolated striving to being a unique, conscious expression of the universe perceiving itself. If the universe is in your mind and responsive to observation, part 9, and your observer casts shadows, part 12, then consciously refining your inner lens becomes the ultimate act of creation, illuminating abundance where fear, part 16, once perceived lack. If meaning is constructed, part 13, you reclaim profound agency to choose empowering narratives that transform victimhood into authorship. If your emotions are narratives, part 14, you master your emotional landscape by consciously reshaping the stories that define your feelings. If desire is a hungry ghost, part 15, and perfection, an always moving finish line, part 19, you find true fulfillment not in endless striving, but in disentangling wanting from liking and embracing the vibrant, imperfect present. And finally, if suffering is optional, part 18, a second arrow of resistance to pain, you possess the power to liberate yourself from anguish by choosing acceptance and mindful presence. This is the ultimate reclamation of agency. You are not a victim of circumstance, but an active, integral participant in reality's unfolding. Your purpose shifts from passively enduring to actively, consciously shaping your experience and contributing to the collective manifestation of this grand cosmic dance. Joy becomes a choice of perception, suffering a choice of resistance. The future is not just predetermined or random, but an open field of potential waiting for your conscious choices to call it forth. This new perspective is the ultimate liberation, freedom from the illusion of powerlessness. You are the master of your internal universe, and that mastery profoundly impacts your external experience. Every single moment is an opportunity to consciously choose your perception, thereby choosing your experience, your choices, and ultimately, your reality. The journey never truly ends, but this understanding empowers you to live with intentionality, presence, and a profound creative responsibility. The universe is not merely out there, it is an intimate, dynamic dance between boundless potential and your unique, active perception. The greatest power you possess is not to control the world, but to consciously choose how you perceive it, what stories you tell about it, and what meaning you imbue it with. In doing so, you don't just change your life, You participate in the ongoing, miraculous creation of reality itself. So, step into your power, shed the final veil of illusion, and begin, right now, to consciously create the reality you choose to inhabit. Your choices, once controlled by unseen errors, are now your greatest tools for conscious creation. This is your life, and it is, profoundly, what you choose to make it.